Hey, it's Meg. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be looking at redecorating this cover a little bit. So thank you to everyone who left such lovely comments in the last video about my cover dilemma. I don't know why I didn't even think about using white paint and gesso to push back the black, but that was definitely a really good option. But I don't know, I'm just gonna see what I can do. So I started peeling this up just to see whether I would be able to potentially pull up the whole thing and then still be able to make a choice about this. So I'm not sure if it's gonna do it, but I'm gonna see. So I think the bits that I don't like are the fact that it's like quite dark with the black, and it also feels a little bit busy. And then I don't know, I don't really like this like extra collage bits that I've done at the bottom here. So these are the areas that are kind of bothering me the most, but I don't think I'm going to be able to pull the whole thing up, because really if I push back some of this like busy pattern, I still don't really like this. So I think I might try this, but I'm not sure if it's going to work because I did quite a good job at sticking it down. So in theory I shouldn't be able to do this so easily, but we'll see, because I only used a Pritt stick. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna, or maybe, because I think if I do add this on the top, I don't want all that bulk. So maybe I will tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna save this bit. I'm so sorry to shock you within the first like minute you turn on my video and suddenly I'm tearing things apart. So please hold your breath if this is alarming for you, but we are just gonna make a cover that I am happy with, because at the minute I like it, but I'm not in love with it, you know? I don't really think it goes with what I was thinking for this project, which I guess is kind of the dilemma you sometimes have if you start with doing the cover, and then I just feel like the journal itself has kind of merged into something else. And so if I'm able to get this off cleanly, it could still go on the front, or maybe I will actually, tell you what, I will save this within here, and then we always have a bit of a reminder of what the cover was, and this might actually go nicely on one of these pages, maybe here. That could work. Or let's see, so I'm not completely losing what it was. Where could this go? Quite like it there, actually. I'll pull it down slightly so we've still got some of the texture from that piece. I'll have to put it like there. So there. So I think I might pop that there. So what I'm going to do is just grab a little bit of washi tape and just hold that in place for now. You know, hold that thought. But I think that way then I'm still saving what was on the front cover. I'm gonna hopefully pull a fair chunk of this up, just because I don't want that added bulk on the cover necessarily. And I don't think I'm going to be able to get that up, because I think I did a really good job of gluing that label down. I do have some stitching here that I'm going to try and work my way around. Okay, that way then we've just got less bulk, so I'm not making like a really 3D cover when I'm adding stuff to this. So there we go. I'm just gonna have to ignore the fact that we've got these little stitched pieces here. I'm sure when I stick this on the top it will be fine. Actually, you can't see the stitches on that side, so maybe I will be able to just cut them out gently. and then they're not gonna get in the way of anything. So let's see. Yeah, see, I did want to kind of do the gesso like white paint, but then also I just feel like it was too busy and too cluttered, and I almost thought, let's just start fresh, you know? So let's just pull all these little bits up just so we haven't got quite so much in the way. And then, okay. Now, if you're still with me, and I haven't scared you off by doing that, I'm going to add this onto the cover. So the original background of this was black. So what I'm going to do is, if I add this, now the only issue is it's ever so slightly not tall enough for this. So we might have to just add some tape at the bottom maybe. Don't really want to have to cut. I could cut the whole journal to accommodate this because it's only that much. It's not a huge amount, but I kind of don't want to need to trim the entire journal. Actually, I could just paint it like the white and the coffee, couldn't I? That would work. Okay, so this is kind of less than ideal because now I've already got bulk within this journal, and I should have done this sort of thing right at the beginning because I don't know if you can tell, but there's like obviously all this going on within the journal itself, so it's a little bit like wobbly, but we can work with it. So I'm gonna grab my glue stick and we'll just, you know, take two of this. In fact, let's just take up those little bits of washi as well, and hopefully by the end of this it'll, you know, it'll be like it never happened, and you know, it was still nice, but I just wasn't feeling it. Like, it just wasn't something that I think was working for the journal as a whole. And to be honest, I'd much rather be like happy with the cover every time I come to work with this. So let's add this on here. So I'm going to try and get like as close to the edge as I can. And I think I'm going to have to just come up to the top here just because it's quite like dark black underneath there, and it'll be easier to cover this little bit down here with the white paint and help it to blend in. Or I guess I could cut a little slither off, but my worry is that it will kind of like peel off and just get like more in the way and be more annoying than it's worth. So let's see. Okay, see, I'm already much preferring this. So let's cut this off here. And then I'm also going to have to cut it at the corner that I rounded and just try and get myself the right angle so that I can do that. I do really love the rounded corners of this journal. I think for working in a no-sew journal, it just really adds something extra, the fact that the corners are nicely rounded like that. So there is, see, look, that already looks a lot better, I think. I much prefer that. I do have this on the reverse, so I'm not gonna like immediately attack this because I've not got to that part of the journal yet, but it's kind of nice to have like the black and the white. But realistically, I'm probably going to end up covering this, but I'm just going to tackle the front cover for now because I don't have a matching piece of this card, so I'm probably going to just do something like plain on the reverse of this, especially because these both open in the same way, so they really are much more like a traditional book. And I still haven't decided what I'm going to do with the reverse of this because I think it might get a little bit too chunky if I started adding the signatures into this side as well as this side, but I may well decide to do that. I don't know. I've just left it blank and have glued this random napkin in here as a bit of a statement. But yeah, I've left this blank while I decide what I do with that. So now I'm going to come in with the coffee, and I'm just going to test on this bit because I can't remember whether it makes the ink on this run a lot and whether I have to be a bit more careful with like how much I'm actually like moving the coffee around. But it seems to not be too bad. And I've just got my paintbrush so that I can sort of target the areas that I want the coffee on, and hopefully I end up with some nice areas that are darker. I might come in and do maybe a second coat if it doesn't look dark enough, and I think that might be nice actually to be able to add the layers to it. And I could probably be using a bigger paintbrush, but I really want to make sure that this is nice and concentrated in terms of where I'm applying some of this coffee. And I think maybe once I've done this first layer, I'll come in with some white paint and sort out the bottom of the journal cover, blend it in, and then I can come in with my second coat because I don't think this is going to be dark enough. And I definitely want it to not just be kind of like the off-white, but really have that coffee dyed effect to it. So I'm going to go and dry this and then come back with the white paint. Okay, so now I've got my white paint and I'm going to try and blend in this bottom bit here and almost like pretend that there isn't this weird gap at the bottom of the journal here. And I think just by layering this up, it should hopefully do the trick. And if not, I'll put a piece of paper there maybe as well, and then come in again with the white paint, but I'm hoping that should be enough. And I'm also just going to add it in some of the areas along, maybe more along like the edges of this. I definitely don't want to push too much of the details back, but I do want it to kind of look a little bit more layered, and then the coffee will hopefully really help things to stand out in certain areas. So I've kind of gone like around one of these flowers, and I'll go into the corner, so you kind of have different bits standing out, hopefully, is the effect that I'm trying to go for here. But I'm just sort of adding it in random places really. Okay, so now I'm going to add a second layer of coffee, and hopefully this should pick up a lot more in certain areas on the journal and have a bit more of a layered effect to it. And I'm going to try and like add in concentrated areas on this. So I know I mentioned in the last video how I wanted to maybe add some like soft pinks to some of these peonies. So I'm just gonna pick out any of my like pink adjacent pencils, just some coloured pencils, like an assortment of different ones, and see which might go best with what we've got on the page. So they're probably all of them. So I've got a real assortment here. Like I have, what are you? I have Faber-Castells, I have Polychromos, that's a pastel pencil, so I'm not sure how that will go, but I've also got like a Caran d'Ache Luminance, I've got like Arteza, this is a Derwent Inktense, so I've got to be careful with that one as well. A couple of like darker purples as well, so I think I might start off with the lighter colours and then we can always go darker with them. But I was just thinking on some of them, like the bottom here, it could just be nice to gently colour them in and just add a bit of colour to the cover without overwhelming it. So we'll see how this goes. I don't necessarily want to add this like everywhere, but I just think it could be like a really nice soft touch on some of the flowers to kind of have areas like this. I don't know how much it's picking up on camera. I'm just using, oh, this is literally a Crayola. This is nothing fancy, this is just a Crayola. I kind of want to add it like in certain sections in a way that it's still really like soft and dainty and a little bit more abstract. Like I'm not colouring these in with the goal of making them look realistic. I just want to add a little something to the cover without completely taking it over. And let's go for something a little bit darker but also quite warm. So this is a Faber-Castell in Venetian Red. And I'm not adding too much on this one because I think if I'm gonna come in and add like a little like plate or something in the middle, it's kind of gonna cover this one anyway. And so you still then have the three that are coloured in, or have the hint of something. And then I'm gonna maybe, I kind of want to use this. This is a fuchsia, but it's an ink tint, so you've got to be really careful because if I add water to this, it's going to be very strong, and I don't necessarily want like a huge amount of colour within this, but just some that is quite subtle. So I might try adding some water to this and just activate it a little bit. And actually this is quite a nice blend between having something that's a little bit more like arty, but without actually having the pressure of having to draw something. So if you have scrapbook papers like this, definitely consider maybe you could use them as actual like colouring in as well. So I think that's enough for those. See what this does. I'm hoping it kind of blends fairly nicely. I know the ink tints are, clues in the name, quite intense, so you can see that's really come out there. But I think that's quite subtle in comparison to everything else I've got going on for the cover. So as you can see, I'm not like colouring in the entirety of the petal. I'm sort of just working on the edge of it and blending that in. And I might add a little bit in this bit just because that's the center, so we'll get a bit more depth if I add that there. Okay, so I think that is where I am going to leave this for now. Definitely needs that little focal point, but I think it's feeling a lot more me, and I'm very happy with the lightness, like in comparison to the original cover that we had. So I really do much prefer this. I think with a label or something here of some description will look really nice, and I just think it matches the inside. So as always, thank you for joining me for this craft with me session. I'm going to tie this ribbon around the journal as well. I forgot that I had this, but again, matches this a lot better. So yeah, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.